Hey everybody, welcome back to Life Under Deborah's Palm, where today I have a lot of announcements. First off, as you might have noticed, I have been MIA for 4 or 5 or whatever weeks, and normally I try to post like every 2 weeks, and nothing's wrong. It has just been super crazy in my house and something had to give, so that's what gave for a few weeks. So hopefully the worst of it's past. For those of you who have liked and subscribed, thanks for supporting the channel, and if you get something out of this, please consider doing that. And of course, you can always check out my novel, which the links are below, that will go to a universal Amazon based on your country. Today what I'm going to talk about is dementia and the I want to go home thing that goes on with them. Our experience has been in assisted living, but I think it goes on when you move them even into someone else's house. And I'm going to tell you just kind of our experience, what the experts have said, and what worked for us to handle this, because it can get kind of daunting among everything else that you're going to deal with. And the first thing I'm going to say, which might sound really stupid, is what do they actually mean when they want to go home? They say, I want to go home. Is it literally physically the house that they lived in or apartment or wherever they lived? It could be. That's what we all think of, but our experience has been kind of vast. My mother-in-law would say that, and that's absolutely what she wanted. She wanted to go back to her house, and that was that. Now, when my mother says it, it's one of two things. If she's in a really bad cranky mood and she's had enough, when she says I want to go home, she literally means I want to die and go to heaven. And we know that, and it's actually been confirmed by some other folks who work in the place where my mom's at, and she's like, no, you don't understand. I want poison pills. I want to leave. I want to go home. And it's like, yeah, no, it just doesn't work that way. But that's what she does. The other thing I figured out with my mother, because she would say, you know, she wasn't really demanding about it. She would say, well, I thought I could go home just for a little while. And what I finally found out sort of accidentally this past summer is that I set up a visitation with my aunt, and we actually went to my aunt's apartment, and one of my uncles was able to make it. We were there for about 30 minutes and my mom said, okay, I'm ready. I can go home now, meaning back to her apartment at assisted living. Home to her was her siblings, and what she was saying was, I miss my family and I just want to see them. Now, they don't really have a lot of concept of time, so 30 minutes, 3 hours, 3 days, it didn't matter. It was about 30 minutes, and she was just as happy as could be and all ready to go back to assisted living. It also, with my mother, sometimes will mean she just wants to get out and take a ride in, you know, out in the world, which she hasn't been, because if you followed it, you know that in February we were told to make plans for her sure demise. It didn't happen. She's actually still here. She's doing pretty well. In the last 2 weeks, she's gotten her normal sweet disposition back, although she has definitely declined through the last 10 weeks of craziness, but she's back to being her sweet self. And now she told me she's ready to go for a ride somewhere. But there was 6 inches of wet snow yesterday when I visited, so I told her when the weather got nice, we'd go get ice cream. So first, discern what home is. Second, what's causing it? It happens usually when you first move them, whether they go into assisted living or they go into someone else's house, maybe that can trigger it, because you're moving them out of their familiarity. They have a very hard time with change. Not all of us like change anyways, but when it comes to dementia, they don't understand. And even though they're really struggling, when they're in their own home, they often know where the coffee is or where the glasses are or whatever they're looking for. And there's just, that is really hard for them. They will settle in more than you realize. One thing to look for is fear or anxiety. After they've settled and it's kind of calmed down, is there something that is making them fearful or anxious or uncomfortable in the place? Part of my mother's issue when she was throwing us out all the time was fear-based. For those of you who have seen the videos, you know my mom got in a tussle and started kicking someone, and then a guy came up and grabbed her and shook her. After that, she really had changed, and a few things were going on. Some was physical, but some of it was going on in her brain, and we finally kind of, I think, figured it out. That shaking that she took put a fear in her, like, this place is unsafe. I'm going to get hurt, and you're going to get hurt while you visit me. She had no idea. The person who did it to her, she had no recollection at all of why she felt that way, and she couldn't really articulate it other than she would tell us, go home, I'm going to get hurt, you're going to get hurt, all those things. But I kind of traced it back to, it started with this incident. And like I said, the person that they had the incident, they're all together. Like, she has no clue that guy shook her. They all sit together and dine together and everything else. But somewhere in her, it kind of got stuck in her brain. So that was part of wanting to go home and not wanting anyone to visit. She was, afraid for all of us. And you do have to be careful. We've never had a problem with abuse by the workers there. Never. We've been in that place now. We've had family there for 10 years now, and we've never had an issue. But it's also something to really look for. I hate to say that, but the truth is it does go on. So make sure something more isn't going on if they're in some type of an assisted living facility. Another issue that can cause the I want to go home behavior is boredom. And one of the things you can do to figure that out is see, is there a time of day? Is there a specific time of day? We went through this with my mother-in-law. 4:30, 4:45 was when we were most likely to get the phone call, because the activities ended around 4-ish and dinner was at 5. So there was some downtime. And that was when we were most likely to get the phone calls. Another thing that happened, and I actually had to call a caseworker to find out, was she would go through these times where we'd get phone calls like every day. I want to go home, I want to go home, I want to go home. I'm like, what is going on? Usually she's, playing bingo or something. And I called the caseworker and said, is something going on? Like, we're getting these phone calls. Is she not going to activities anymore? And only to find out that they had something like a stomach bug in the building. And when they get one of those types of things, stomach bugs or flus, they don't do group activities in the recreation area. What they do is they keep everyone on their floor and they try to keep them on their wing so that it stops the spread. Well, that meant, activities were kind of at a minimum for a week or so, and we would get those phone calls. So that happens sometimes too. So how do you handle it? Well, that all depends. Now, the experts, I have read this and I just laugh because this was the first thing we tried. The truth. The truth don't work with dementia in this case. Remember in my old videos, I told you there was something called anosognosia, which means without knowledge of disease. So when my mother-in-law would say, I want to go home, and she was nasty about it, we tried the truth because we thought we could get her to reason this out, not understanding that their reasoning abilities go pretty quick. So we would say, oh, well, we're not sure that you should go home yet. You're not really safe there probably, and your brain doesn't work as well as it used to. And she would look us right dead in the eye and go, oh, bullshit. I want to go home. You can't keep me here. The truth did not work well. We tried a couple of other things, and some of them worked some of the time. So we would just switch around till we got one that worked. We would say, you just have to stay till the end of the month because we're paid for 30 days, and at the end of the month, we'll take you home. That worked for a little bit, and sometimes it didn't. Sometimes she was a very demanding person anyways, and so she expected when she demanded that we were all going to run over there and do what she wanted. So here's what did work with us almost every time, and it works with my mother almost every time. My mother-in-law would go down to the front doors at about 4:30, 4:45, and start banging on those crash bars, which set an alarm off. The aides could not get her back. It happened a multitude of times, and they would call us and say, you know, she's at the door. Can one of you guys talk to her? Maybe you can calm her down, help us get her back upstairs, do something. So we did a few things until we finally narrowed it down. Often I would get the call and I would say, you know what? My husband, I said, he's on his way over. He's at work. He'll be there in a half an hour. So go get your coat and your purse and he'll be there to pick you up. That worked. And then one time we got the call and I said that and she goes, no, now, right now. Where is he now? Like she couldn't comprehend a half hour wasn't long. So I had to switch it up and say, okay, he's coming right now. Oh my gosh, he's almost there, but you can't go. You got to go get your purse. You don't want to leave your money in the building, do you? No, hurry, go. And the aides would turn them right around. And by the time they turn around and head in the direction they're supposed to go, they've forgotten. Sadly, that is the disease, and they've just forgotten. And by the time they get them up to their floor, it was dinner time, and they would just sit her down and she would eat, and we wouldn't hear from her for the rest of the night. They finally did say, how are you guys doing this? And we said, just tell her that her son's coming to get her and she needs to get her coat and her purse. She'll go, and that worked. My mom, as she has gone through the last 10 weeks and as she started to come out of it, put her on something called Depakote, which is an anti-seizure medicine that seems to have calmed her brain down a bit. And then she was still a little antsy, but she was talking to me, even though she was grumpy and not her usual self. And she was like, I want to go home. And I said, okay. One time one of the things I said to her, I said, okay, I said, Mom, I have to get my car. She said, what car? How did you get here? I said, Mom, I drove. She's like, you don't have a car. I said, Mom, you can see my car out the window. And I said, Mom, but my car's right there. And she goes, that's not your car. We're old ladies. We don't drive anymore. You're lying to me. I'm like, Mom, okay. But what I would do is I would say, okay, well, are you sure you want to go home? I would ask her questions like, you don't like your apartment anymore? Or you don't, trying to see if something else was going on. Like, you don't like your apartment anymore? Or is somebody mean to you or something like that? No, I like my apartment. I just want to go home, which tells me she wants to go visit her siblings, but she's not quite there at that a couple weeks ago. Now she is. Now I will be planning that. But I knew that's what she was looking for. And I said, well, you know what we're going to do, Mom? I said, why don't you sit down here with me here at this table and we're going to visit while they pack your room up. Like they have to get your stuff together. I can't leave it, right? We got to take some of your stuff with us. And she go, no, I don't care. Just leave it. I said, Mom, I can't because I don't have a bed for you. I need to bring your bed. Be careful. If they get freaky about people touching their stuff or afraid that their stuff's going to get stolen, it might backfire on you. So just kind of recover quickly on that. You may be able to do something like, okay, well, let's go down to your room and get your coat. Doesn't matter if it's the dead of summer. So when they get to the point where they don't understand the seasons, it won't matter. Sometimes just getting that will get them out of that loop that they're in, and just walking to their room, it may get them out of it. Sometimes they're really, really stuck on it, and it's just hard. And I had that happen a couple of weeks ago with my mother, where she was telling me that we're old ladies and we don't drive, where I said, no, Mom, I really have to go get the car and bring it up front. And she didn't miss a beat this day. She goes, yeah, right, you're going to leave me. You're going to get in your car and go. And I was like, wow, she was right. But normally she doesn't pick that stuff up. So what ended up happening was one of the ladies who runs recreation just kind of said, I got her, and just kind of redirected her as I left. And you might have to enlist the help if it's an assisted living situation. You may just have to, enlist the help of others who can just kind of grab a hold of them so you can slip out the door. I hope this helped or gives you some ideas and what to work with. Like I said, telling the truth, that never worked for us. I don't care what the experts say. I question sometimes if they've ever dealt with dementia, but maybe in the very early stages, if they've sort of accepted that disease, you might get away with it, but it won't last very long. Hopefully this helps a little bit, gives you some ideas and gets you thinking of what might work and really how to kind of understand what they're saying when they want to go home. It may be people, it may not be a physical location, or they may just want to die. They do kind of get that way. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. And until the next time, have a great day.